Sifiso Buthelezi has rubbished claims of a so-called power grab of the Treasury. The DA had accused the minister in the Presidency, Radebe, of grabbing the powers of Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba and reducing Treasury to mere bookkeepers ahead of the finalisation of the budget this month.
This was after Radebe outlined a mandate paper which identified various spending priorities, including higher education, social security and job creation. Buthelezi spoke to SABC earlier and also addressed concerns around the R3 billion bailout for SAA that was announced late last week. Our colleague Nzinga Qunta started by asking him about that alleged power grab of Treasury.
I think people are just making too much out of this thing. There's the cabinet agreed on what you call a mandate paper. I'll tell you where it comes from. It's not just you, it was there even last year. The mandate paper. The government realized that it needs to prioritize certain activities and programs. And when that was left only to ministers who are on the same par, everything ended up being a priority. So there's a process involved. You know that the cabinet will go to the cabinet holder and discuss and debate about the things that they think that should inform the budget. Remember that the budget is the expression of the policy decisions that and directions that government is taking. So just putting that on numbers. So needless to say, when you have got many of the ministers around and the tendency is to prioritize everything which falls within the department, then we needed somebody above all of us. And that's how the question of the minister in the presidency monitoring and evaluation came in, that they should come up with a mandate paper which sort of prioritizes the things that the government need to prioritize. Obviously, you know that we are operating within a fiscal constraint of limited resources. So all what that does, it just says, here are the priorities of the government, which emanate from a number of consultative processes, including the question of cabinet holder. And then those things are then taken to National Treasury. So this thing of a fight or somebody usurping the powers of National Treasury, it's not there. It's figmentation of somebody's mind. It's not there. By the way, you can't take away National Treasury's powers because they are contained in the Constitution. So how do you do that? Because you have acted unconstitutionally. So I think people like exaggerating things and saying things which are not there. So basically, it's meant to try and streamline things and to allow the government to prioritize certain things. So there is just no usurping of powers of anybody, because even if National Treasury wanted to do, or even if Presidency wanted to do that, the rights and the functions of National Treasury are contained in the Constitution.
Okay, Minister, we're going to move on to the PIC, which has been in the news a lot recently. A furor over CEO Dan Matjila possibly being removed and allegations. Now, before we go in there, do you think there's a conflict of interest by you being the PIC board chair as well as the Deputy Minister of Finance?
Definitely not, ma'am. The functions of the deputy minister, they are known at the department, and the functions of the chair, whether he's a deputy finance minister or what, they're also contained in the act, the Companies Act. The functions of the chairman are contained there as a non-executive director of the company.
So there's been an uproar by Fiducia saying that they believe that there are elements who are trying to capture the PIC in order to loot those funds that they have, their 1.8 around trillion funds. There's also Dan Matjila saying to the Business Times earlier on that he does believe there's an agenda to remove him. In your discussions with your shareholders and people that are involved in the PIC, have you picked this up?
I must say that there are people really who belongs to the creative arts. It's a complete creativity of some people. There's nothing like that. Let me tell you where this thing comes from. There was an allegation, and underline is an allegation which was made against the CEO. So the board, in compliance with its fiduciary responsibilities, not the chairman of the board decided that it was going to go through a particular process And by the way, that's not the first time that the board does that. So what happens whenever there's an allegation, that allegation will be given to the person against whom the allegation is being made. So that's what happened. The allegation was given to the CEO. We've done that before on 2 other occasions. And the CEO will respond to those allegations, which will go to the board, and the board will then apply its mind. So that's what was going to happen. But on this one, I don't know what happened, because when the CEO was still busy with that, all of a sudden we started seeing a lot of these preposterous suggestion that the CEO was about to be removed. If he was going to be removed now, why was he not removed before? And secondly, I don't understand the concept of looting. Perhaps for the benefit of South Africans, we have got a board of about 13 members, including the chairperson and the deputy chairperson. Of those 13 board members, 10 are board members who were appointed by former ministers of finance. If seriously one was trying to capture whatever that means, how do you do it with a board of 13 people and only 3 of those people are new? Let me tell you, ma'am, the board members of PIC, the directors of PIC, they take their responsibilities, their fiduciary responsibility very seriously. So there is no way they are going to act outside the law. Our commitment, including the commitment of this chairman, to the highest standard of corporate governance, can't be challenged. So as I'm saying, that it's creative arts at its best.
Deputy Finance Minister